And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, heroes and villains, table legs and chair legs, whatever you want to associate yourself as on this glorious sunny day, deceptively sunny day at Suzuka in Japan. This is round 2 of Era Masters League, the very first of its kind, the creme de la creme of all the best racers that come out of Evolution Racing Academy. You're here with Steve Koenig and myself, Adam Ty, on the airwaves for you. What a treat. How are you, Steve?
Absolutely grand. Been looking forward to this, especially after such a close race in round 1. Now we're switching things up, getting away from the norms of the GT3s and jumping into something that's a little brutal, and that is our Porsche Cup cars around the beautiful circuit of Suzuka. One of our longer tracks that we've got on the calendar, 5.8 kilometers, and we've got 90 minutes worth of racing with 2 mandatory pit stops with this car, and well, nothing better than a 4-liter flat 6 naturally aspirated, a complete class of our 485 horsepower, 357 kilowatt powered at 7,500 RPM class of Porsche Cup cars. It's the 991 Cup car here in the Assetto Corsa Competizione, and the 991-2. Got to get the generation right for all those Porsche fans out there.
I absolutely love all the information that you come out with. It's just I've never really quite got my head around all the technicals of the cars just yet. I like screaming my head off about how exciting the race is, but understanding all those technicals that go on the inside, I love it. It's music to my ears. Tell me, how long have you been of knowledge for all the cars, Steve? I'm fascinated by this.
I actually just enjoy wicked-looking cars, and well, Porsche Cup car is one of my personal favorites in terms of a class. If you think about this is a pure driver's car, and in a Assetto Corsa Competizione, when you've got such a multitude of different vehicles to play with, the BMW M2s, the GT4s, the Cup car stands head over shoulders. There's no driver assist in the car, no ABS, no traction control. It relies purely on what the driver is capable of doing. And when we talk about masters, they're going to have to get these cars to the top of the pack. They have to stand head and shoulders above one another. And what we got to find out, not everyone has been practicing with these cars. If you take a look at Chris Wall, he started his sim racing out in ACC in these Cup cars, where you've got others that haven't been practicing too much in them. Daniel de Villiers had a brilliant run in Cup cars, getting used to it and into the Porsche's full stop. However, if you go into the world of Andre Serodio, that's a good one. This is his first proper outing in a Cup car. First time that he's having to take it on. And the 991.2 Cup car can be either the equalizer for the championship, or it can be a proper hammer to your championship, because we haven't got drop rounds to consider anymore. This is where you got to get it absolutely perfect each and every time. And in a 90-minute race with 2 mandatory pit stops, you're going to have to really think about what your tire usage is going to be, what your fuel usage is going to be. Lockups are going to be painful because there is no setups on these cars. You're going to have to be able to move quite forward. But also, you can't really do much in changing these cars. There's no major aero upgrades you can do. If you compare to its bigger brother, the 992 GT3R, that we get to have a bit of fun out on the circuit, or the 991.1 GT3 that is available on the sim as well. You have a lot more upgrades. This has got lack of aero to it, but once again, you got to keep a very good idea, and your right foot is your biggest enemy completely with this car. But that being said, we did talk about the championship and how that can be affected if you get it wrong here today. And I know that you have been keeping a very close eye on the points, especially after round 1.
Yes, indeed. And I have that information for you now. So if we're talking in terms of the standings right now, last race at Barcelona was an absolute belter for Christoph Peterson, who took the lead in first place, scoring himself 32 points, and that's in the Mercedes AMG. Of course, we're not featuring those cars here today. It's all Porsches on the track. It's followed by Bago Grobler, who was in the Ford Mustang, who took it second place. It's 27 points for Team Wolf. Henry Platt in third with Moscow Motorsport, 24 points. Rafa Souza took it fourth, securing 21 points. Martin Spitzer was in fifth. David Borszewski, I apologise if I've absolutely botched that name, that's for Cyber Racing, securing 6th place and securing 15 points. And Muath Musa took 13 points in 7th place for Project Vapor. Daniel De Villiers in 8th. Sean Shute in 9th. Ernest Lindbergs, who had a terrible run was leading the pack and then managed to run out of fuel with just fumes, 1 lap to go before the end, so that put him in 10th in category. And Farmer also having a pretty bad race last week, who keeps the back warm in 11th. We're heading over to the Pro-Am category. Lucas Kolb had a fantastic race, leading the way with 30 points. That is first place in category for us Ultra Super Late Braking team, followed by David Roth in second in the NSX Evo. Sebastian Lucasen, who we had on the airwaves after the race for post-interview in the V8 Vantage Aston Martin, racing for Mental Health Reminder, taking third place. Chris Wall in fourth, followed by Oral Jar in fifth, followed by Isham Domingo in sixth, racing the BMW. Dan Matashima in 7th, Lewis Knight in 8th, Paul Ventnor in 9th, and Ulrich de Jager in the BMW in 10th, followed by James Wheeler and David Young in 11th and 12th respectively. And with that, it goes straight into the qualifying round. Everyone is blasting out. Look at that really lovely livery. I believe that is Souza in the Roxy themed 992 famous livery as we all know it. That is brilliant. I love that artwork.
Considering coming after the Sebring 12 hour that happened this weekend, what better way to go and get the Predator name right to the top. Now, with that being said, Suzuka, if we think about this track, it is technical, it is tight, it is twisty, and requires you to really be on point. Cold tires means that you slip and slide all over the show, but with a combined qualifying for our drivers, they will have to battle it out Pro and Pro-Am to see who can get into which position. Instead of the usual format where your Pro-Ams go out for 10 minutes, then your Pros, well, we put them all together to fight their way through. Now, that also being said, this casts our mind back to round 1 at Barcelona, where the rain probability was less than 30%. This weekend, however, probability is between 40 and 50%. It is a flip of a coin of whether we're going to stay with bright sunny times at a beautiful 23 degrees Celsius here out in the grandstands. And a massive welcome to everyone out in the virtual grandstands. You guys are absolute legends. And it's 30 degrees out on circuit, but at the same time, you can land up having a world of problem. Remember, these cars have no driver aids. Add a little bit of moisture to this beautiful 5.8 kilometer circuit of Suzuka. You're going to land up with a huge problem. 18 corners to contend with as they make their way through the Casio Triangle. Rafa hoping to be the first one to get across that line, start that lap. Best way to do it, because he's in open air. He can keep his foot firmly to the floor and charge his way to the top. However, he does not want to be caught out by the rest of the field that will be trying to get some heat into their tires and might go and land up running a foul in the process. Especially big marks to keep an eye out for, especially in these cars, is the spoon corner, the 180R, and also into turn 1, where you'll start to pick up a bit of a fishtail in these cars. So just a couple of things you need to be well aware of when driving Porsche Cup cars, and not to land up in a world of trouble. I also want to add to the fact that drivers are looking to maximize points, so qualifying definitely is going to make a difference in these cars. GT3, we have a hard push. We used to longer races, but now for those that have less experience in these cars, you want to be in clear air as much as, because otherwise it's going to be some of the first experiences for a lot of these drivers to be going side by side and chasing each other down in the Porsche Cup cars, which was an interesting choice, and I've got to say, a personal favorite of mine. But Adam, anything can happen. If you talk about the drivers looking to be at the top, you've got lots and lots of pressure settling in. Christoph Peterson, who took the victory, is now charging his way through and is trying to stay his way to the top of the field. The Williams driver not going to be caught out by Bego Grobler and Henry Platt, who put the pressure on him in round 1. Lucas Collard, David Roth and Sebastian Luxon, they've got the exact same problem. You might see Chris Wall, who's had a lot more practice in the car, to move forward up in through the run. So there is the little bit of what if. What if the drivers just happen to be that little bit quicker? What happens if the track conditions change? What if your talent runs out in these cars? Not to also take away the fact you've got a 90-minute race that's going to wear you out with the 2 mandatory pit stops. There isn't a pit window. You can go first lap, start on green, come round, nail it in the pits, get your first stop done. But if you lock up the anchors, you're going to throw yourself a little bit further back as times start to come in. Christoph Peterson, top of the charts with a 2-minute.2, and they going to keep and going. You have Bego Grobler chasing down with a 2:03.2. David Borski sits with a 2:03.4. Usam Domingo first to the Pro-Ams, up into 4th place ahead of Ernest Lindbergh's Jason Farmer, Lucas Collab. Second to the Pro-Ams, well, as I said that, Project Vapor, Andres Herodio slots himself into the top 5. We are already starting to see drivers getting that first off-the-wicket run. Bego Grobler was up in Sector 2 and Sector 3 over Christoph Peterson in Sector 1.
It's all going off with these cars. You can barely hear yourself thinking. It's just absolutely screaming here in the pit box. How are you finding the volumes out there? Speaking of, how is the community doing? I'm seeing some howdies and salutations from our community. Hello and welcome to the chat. It has been, so far, a pleasure having you by our side. Big shout out from Antonia Gamble, 6076, Jason Farmer, my boy! And also, hello everyone, how's it, Stephen and Adam? Yes, we are doing it brilliant. Thank you very much, Antonia Gamble, 6076. Shall I just call you Antonia? Let me know.
Gamble is one of the most passionate in terms of supporters for the Griffin Sim Racing team, and mostly for Jason Farmer. Some say there's a relation there. Some say Antonio Gamble follows around throughout each of the different championships. But others say that Jason Farmer is definitely her boy on the way through. Now, I got a question, Adam. You're going and taking these cars 7,500 RPM max as you going and changing up and down through the gears. You've got no assists on the car. It is 1.2 tons of racing. But for a lot of these drivers, a new opportunity to go and improve their skill, to hone their skill. What would you think would be the right idea for the race, where 90 minutes is absolutely crucial to stay at the top of the order on a circuit that relies a lot on slipstreaming. You're going to run nose to tail, but these cars have got low downforce, which means the slipstream is going to work beautifully. But if you take away any of the air coming over the car that's meant to keep pressure on the nose and the rear, suddenly goes away, that rear is going to come underneath you. Do you want to be close to your competitor, or do you want to rather slack off that little bit?
Well, I would actually err on the side of caution, especially if this is your first, not your first time, but it's not a familiar car that you drive with. You definitely want to keep the nose down, so it's a very temperamental car to keep those front wheels on the track, so let's hope that our drivers don't experience any understeer as we're watching Sousa come through 180, I believe that corner is. Coming through Casio. This is a corner that you want to be just giving a tiny little blip of throttle to, just to lift that nose over the curbs there. But when it comes to long, sweeping, fast bends, you want to make sure that that nose is well and truly planted forwards into the tarmac. And Sousa gives us a very dramatic action shot coming over the line, and he is on a 202. Not many hundredths, just a single hundredth, and the next fiercest competitor behind is Peterson with a 202.582.
Now, to give a little bit of a fun context, now, how do you hold a lap record in motorsport? Adam, quick one to you. How do you hold a lap record in a circuit? Any ideas?
It's a quite a testing question, I think. I'm no pro at holding lap records, personal lap records, I can attest to, and that would probably be just follow consistency and give it so much practice. You really need to practice, and if you don't put the practice in, the outcome of the race will really catch up to you. And when it's 90 minutes, sorry, go on, Steve, go on.
So a quick one on how a lap record is kept together. You have to set the fastest lap in the race to get it done. So you have to be the quickest in the race, and that will count as a lap record. Now, same machines that we see currently out on circuit, the 992.2 Cup car, which is a Porsche 911. If you go through the whole Porsche brand, it's a Porsche 911 992.2 GT3 Cup car. But in 2025, the Porsche Carrera Cup managed to make their way to Suzuka, and it was set by Kazuya Rabi, who managed to do a 202.9 in race trip. So far in qualifying, we've broken that lap record. 3 drivers have managed to beat out that record, with Rafa, Christoph, and Issam Domingo. Now they're going to have to do it in the race to compare to a real life lap record that was set at 25 degrees air temperature, 31 degrees track temperature, partly cloudy, instead of a open day like this. So how's that for a little bit of a thought, and how close these cars are actually running to real life Cup cars? And also, if you're just joining us and taking a look at the ERA Masters, and you're wondering what on earth the ERA Masters and how does this differ to the world of ERA Sunday Championship, well, the ERA Masters is an invitational only championship that goes and pins some of the best drivers from around the world, past champions and present championships, across 2 different divisions, our Pro and Pro-Am, that have been fighting out in our Server 1 and Server 2 across different races. Now, it is selected on random weather, so you have to keep that in mind. You also have different cars. Round 1, we had GT3, 60 minutes of racing with a mandatory pit stop. Now you're going and having the Porsche Cup cars, 90 minutes with 2 mandatory pit stops in you go. We'll be jumping back to the GT3s for 120 minutes into the BMW M2s. So it's meant to test every single skill of these top echelon drivers that usually coach the academy drivers and show what their skills can do. Now we're putting the gauntlet on, where they have to perform every step of the way. And that's why you don't usually see all the big names that is in Server 2 and Server 1. These are past, present, and will be the future champion to win out a physical trophy of ERA and call themselves the ERA Master of 2026. And this is where you want to elevate your skill to become one of these drivers. Adam, just thinking about it and taking a look, this is going to be an almighty run. So what is your take on this championship as we head into the final 1 minute and 50 seconds of qualifying? Ratha and Christoph Peterson slugging out for first and second, but Domingo managing to get ahead of the Pro-Ams, holds on to third place. He'll be starting next to fellow South African Bego Krobler in fourth.
That's incredible pace, Domingo. And it's really exciting to see how mixed the grid is in terms of category. And how this is going to pan out, well, it depends how some of these drivers have practiced. Have they trialed the full 90? Have they experimented with different tire pressures and compounds for different weather conditions? As we all know, the weather is probably 60% probability of precipitation, so there's definitely going to be, well, there's a bit more than a coin toss as to what, when or how those tyres are coming out, whether it be on race start or not. I have been in a few races in the past, endurance races, where you practice and practice and practice to start in dry weather conditions, but then as soon as you land on grid, it's chucking it down and you dance your way over to the pits to get those wet compounds on. So with the times that are coming out at the moment, I can't see Caesar and Peterson being dethroned from the front row of that grid. But if we're looking at some times at the moment, Borszewski is actually on for an absolute stormer, fighting his way up in 9th place right now, eyeing up Farmer's current 8th position. It is very much on the cards. And also Platt in 7th. He is on for 6/10 improvement on his lap time. He's about to come over the line. He's just eking it into 5/10. He comes over the line and he's still got 9th. He still has 9th.
Trying to push that a little bit harder, unfortunately couldn't quite improve on his personal best. That wheel drop off. Daniel Mutsma rounding out the field in 23rd position, keeping it all together. Remember, if we go back to round 1, he jumped into a Porsche GT3 car, very different to the McLaren that he is used to. Now in a Porsche Cup car, at least he's used to the sound of the brutal engines out there. But the question is, who is going to be able to carry the pace in these 991.2 Cup cars, and see how they're going to work out. Now, they have been changed as time's gone on to the 992.2 and the 992.1 Cup cars that are the most recent of it, as we see Jason Farmer practicing his pit stop. Now, this is a key element. How many people have practiced coming into the pits here at Suzuka? Because it is a flat-out corner as you exit the Casio Triangle. You now have to keep to the far right-hand side to dive into that pit lane and make sure you get onto the anchors to slow the car down. It is a 50-kilometer run through the pits. And the moment you don't go into pit lane correctly, that's a drive-through and a stop and go 30 seconds that can absolutely decimate your chances at being at the top. And that is a factor, Adam, that many of these drivers will have to consider. Have I got my run into the pits to work out for me, considering you have to visit twice in this race?
Definitely, on top of all those other factors, we still have to remember about the constant, which is making sure that you're not going to be flirting too close to the limits that our stewards working very hard in the background will be paying attention to. I'd say not so much during the race, but more so post-race. These are incredibly clean drivers, so I can't see much. I wouldn't imagine there's many faux pas or slips from some of these contenders here today. It's going to be some very, very beautiful ballet and a lot of back-end dancing. Let's just say a little bit of German salsa from our rear drive monsters. So what do you think it's going to be? Do you think we are going to start the race in rain, or are we going to have that impending doom of 10 minutes out before the showers arrive? What's it going to be? Or is it just going to remain humid? Humid's going to have a really big play on the way the tyre temperatures are going to play on these drives. Oh, there you are. They are actually starting the race in the in glorious daylight. There's no clouds, nothing that is going to cause any concern.
I would say for now. Anyone that's been keeping a close eye on the Japanese Grand Prix, keeping an eye on Suzuka out in Japan, can tell you life switches rather quickly. If you think about this circuit, it is one to twist on a dime the way that the weather pattern works out. 1 minute, you're perfectly fine. Next minute, you're getting caught out by the rain. Next minute, it is blazing hot. It can rain on one side of the circuit, the other. And here at Suzuka International Racing, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of time to be lost. This circuit, just to give you an idea, broke ground 64 years ago, June 1961, but only opened up a year later in 1962, making 63 years old. It has gone through a number of transformations, and it also has a different set of layouts. You've got the East Circuit, which actually goes through our snake and back towards the start finish line. So turn one through the snake and you turn right back towards the pits. But it's also got its full length circuit that was only put together in 2003, and that is the one we got scanned here that we get to use in the Assetto Corsa Sioni, the 2003 layout. But with that being said, and the car's at the ready, 7 seconds to go, Adam, why don't you take us through the grid and let's see who is gonna be taking the top charge to turn one.
So, opening up our engines, we have Rafa Souza with that incredible livery. Brilliant work. So, Souza's first on the grid. His neighbour is Peterson in the Fear the Bones team colours, maybe? Or just temporary colours. We have Domingo in third. Lovely pink and blue. I do pronounce, if I have pronounced your name incorrectly, is it Grobler?
Grobler.
Excellent.
Johan Daigo Grobler. And as Paul the Wall says, it could be a bag of problems that comes through. Fifth place, Andre Sorodio. The South African will be tailing him. And it's good to see the South Africans looking to give each other a little bit of a run. But Adam, I know you've got from 6th
From 6th is Roth. Roth is, oh, I love those colours. The pink and blacks coming off of that, very sleek. You will not miss that in this daylight, that's for sure. Here's Wall. Nice orange, black and white stripes. Very distinct on the track. I will not miss you, sir. We have Platt. A little bit more of a matte green colourway going there. We have Farmer with the Griffin livery, also with the South African flag on the cheeky corner of the rear spoiler. Then we have Platt, also from Moscow Motorsport. Bashewski in 10th. We have Musa. Now this is a bit more of a standard livery, but I do like the way that they've thrown all sorts of tracks on there. That's just such intricate detail. Then we have Spitzer in 12th. We have Lucasen in the very electric colours. Very nice little wiggle for the camera there, thank you very much. And we have Lindberghs in a very lovely Red Bull livery. We have Wheeler also in 15th. We have De Villiers in 16th. David Young in 17th. Diaga in 18th, also sporting the Griffin Racing livery there. We have Shaw Shoot in 19th. We have Kolb in 20th. Lewis Knight in 21st. We have Oral Yar in 22nd. And last but not least, we have Dan Matashima keeping the back nice and toasty in 23rd. So that is the grid.
I do want to point out something interesting, because I always talk about sleeves on, sleeves off. When it comes to Chris Wall, I can confirm it's sleeves on tonight, as he's in a bit of a t-shirt. But Andre Serodio taking things a little bit more seriously this time around. He's got his orange socks on. Usually it's black. He's now into the orange. This is he's taking things seriously for Andre Serodio. And one of the fun facts, he tends to go a little bit quicker when he puts on the orange socks. Don't know why. It's something that has always popped up on his streams and doesn't tend to talk about. But that being said, as we make our way out of the 130R into the Casio Triangle, down to 70 kilometers now, run line astern, waiting to get onto the throttle, the loud pedder. It's going to be Souza and Peterson, two former rivals, now looking to duke it out. One from Brazil, one from Germany, and it all comes down to this. Side by side, 1 hour, 30 minutes worth of racing, 2 mandatory pit stops, and it's all to play for here at Suzuka for the ERA Masters Round 2 in the Porsche Cup cars. Waiting, and green light, we are racing down to turn 1. And what a start from Christoph Peterson, who manages just to eke out. But it's going to be Rafa to challenge for the fight. In towards our first corner. He's able to just run Christoph out a little bit longer. Domingo going and moving down the order. Bago Frobler up into 3rd place for the Team Wolf colours. And now trying to see where he can go through the order. It has been a very, very gentle start from every single one of these drivers, just trying to feel it out at the moment. But Adam, I don't think we're going to see this calm before the storm stick around for too much longer, as drivers need to get a little bit of a hurry up and go at this stage of the game.
And I tell you what, there has been quite a few changes appearing on the race control. The one with the most changes is Lindberghs, who's managed to jump up 2 places from race start. Very, very grand work. I'm sure he's going to be wanting to make a comeback after last week's, well, just bad luck, really. Well, he's just making some fantastic pace as he's making his arrival to Spoon Complex. All these cars are so evenly matched, there's no real way of seeing who has the power, and it looks like Matashima and Yar have had a little coming together potentially. I'm just going to take a look at some of the rewind Well, there's a lot of cars that have gone off here. That's a lot of cars. That is the second cluster of fatalities here at Suzuka. We're just going to go back and re-watch some of that just recent replay there.
I was coming out of Spoon, 242, not having an easy time out, and that is Wheelie trying to keep it all together, and it looked like a bit of chaos that he charged into. Mayath Musa being one of those cars, getting caught up in the mix as well. A real joust about Luxon. Daniel De Villiers landing up going into the pits, but there is the battered, beaten Mayath Musa. Daniel De Villiers also with a bit of pain to his Porsche will be getting his first stop out of the way, and at the same time some major repair work done to it as well. So Spoon Curve, a very difficult corner to get right. Throw in a car that has a tendency to throw its tail out the whole time, and you're in for a rather interesting treat. Some of them getting bitten a little bit harder than planned. And this is round 2 of the ERA Masters League, where we get to test the drivers in a variety of machines, from GT3, BMW M2, and round 2 being a 90-minute race in the Porsche 991.2 Cup car, as they will have to show off each of their skills. So far, 2 drivers into the pits, Daniel De Villiers and Mayath Musa. But it is Rafa Sosa along with Christoph Peterson, Vega Krobler holding the top 3 for the Pro. Isam Domingo, Andres Rodio, the 2 teammates chasing each other down. David Roth holds on to 3rd place and will not be letting go anytime from now, as the drivers just gently make their way around the circuit. Everyone trying to figure out what is going to be the big game plan here. And for those that have already had the impacts early on, because we saw there was quite a few cars, same as we had likes of Wheelie going and getting caught up in that mix. He lands up with a little bit of damage to the car. Sean Skitter was in there as well. Real Jar, who came round after a little bit of earlier contact with likes of Daniel Mutsasima, now needing to pick up the pieces of their race. They've got minor aero effect, no real suspension damage to the cars, but they'll most certainly be feeling the run at the moment, as it looks like Jar is feeling the moment. Spun round, coming out of the Casio triangle, and trying to get himself back onto the main wicket. Mayath Musa into pit lane.
And as we were saying earlier, it's when we were talking about the way the car behaves when you're coming over the crests of corners, Spoon has got a very deceptive crest. Because you're going downhill, you don't necessarily feel like you're going over a crest, but you still are until you hit the very end of the last corner of that complex, and that's where and why a lot of the cars were able to pirouette unexpectedly, and that's why you always keep your foot off the gas until you know for certain that you are ready to lay down fire straight down the back straight there.
Especially with these cars, with how the diffs work, you've got to keep a little bit of pressure on that diff. And when I talk about a little bit of pressure, you've got to keep at least 10% throttle, because if you take your foot off on a cup car, it will naturally have lots of rotation. And what drivers tend to do is remove some of the diff ratio to try and lower it to get less lift off oversteer and rather have on throttle oversteer. So by keeping a bit of pressure on, you are ensuring you're in charge of the car instead of coming off the throttle, having it slip out underneath, and now you're a passenger trying to nail it on the way through. But at the same time, if you're not up to temp, if you're not ready to go, that 10% can quite easily turn into 20%, 30%, and well, you're then 30% into the wall and 100% putting damage on that car, as we've seen a couple of drivers do early on into this race. Now, it is opening up at the front, other than some Domingo and Bago who are keeping each other in close company. Jason Farmer trying to keep onto the back of South African Henry Platt, and they have got Ernest Limburgs constantly putting pressure on the back of Jason Farmer. Now, Limburgs, who is your ERA Sunday Season 17 champion and teammate to Christoph Peterson, a little too far down the order in 10 in the Red Bull colors and trying to make his way through. And you can see how the concertina effect is becoming a little bit of a nightmare. Unsteady coming out of the second right-hander as they make but just running onto the grass and having to fight the car on exit, trying everything he can. His driving style naturally is quite aggressive. It's keep your foot on the throttle, keep on that button the whole way through. And this car can be rather punishing as he looks to the inside of Jason. Quickly closes off that and sees a big move for Henry Platt to go off wide. Spoon. But that also brings up another fundamental factor in the 90-minute race. It is going to be track limits.
Oh yes, track limits. The beauty of that in ACC that I found is that if you hit strike 3, you're not quite strike 3 until you hit strike 4, and then the penalty kicks in. So you kind of get a bit of a fourth time lucky.
But we did see what happens in round 1 when you land up getting those strikes. Now Limburg's up into 9th position, right to the pit wall to try and see if he can guard the line. Snaps back but loses out the drive. Farmer try to go around the outside, possibly looking for the undercut in through the first curve. Can he get it done and dust as Limburg's carries a lot of momentum out. It's third gear on the way through. Now just feather the throttle. That allowed Henry Platt to open up the distance, but take a look who's catching up. Martin Spitzer, slowly but surely, has been in. David Broschke right behind as well, will be trying to get himself back into the fight and will be going after that top 10. Both Spitzer and Broschke will not want to lose track on the argument that's happening ahead of them. We saw what the penalties can do in the first round.
Oh,
You're
no.
Never. Getting a little bit unsteady into the wall. It's light damage to the nose of that car. Not a big impact, but the tires are going to be crying out for mercy. They are going to be cooked because remember, it's 31 degrees track temperature. Those tires have just shot up well beyond 90 degrees, heading towards 110. And he's going to have a cool-off lap to try and keep it all together, and has to deal with the rest of the field now marching their way through.
And that is such a walk of shame, having to go round and let your tyres cool down while the entire pack you've fought so hard to stay ahead of just whistles past you. But anything can happen in these 90 minutes. Weather can sway in your favour. You may be able to catch a window sooner on the pit entry for when the rain does maybe or may not land. There's just no telling, especially there's half an hour outlook of just sunshine and haze here at Suzuka. If you're just tuning in now, you're watching the second round of the ERA Masters, the first of its kind, presenting the best of the best that we have here at Evolution Racing Academy. We're racing at Suzuka in some very tasty Porsche 991.1. Is that correct? I forget the numbers of his 992.1. 991.2. That's the one. That's the one. Thank you, Steve. And with that, we've got Steve Koenig and myself, Adam Ty, on the airwaves, and we'll be with you for the next hour and 19 minutes of this race.
So these are the older generation spec car. And fun fact about the 991.2, they are a little bit harder to drive versus the 992, which recently came out. But you also get two versions of these cars. The Cup cars that you currently see have no TC and have traction control and no ABS, but you do get the Enduro spec that does have that capability, but they were harder to drive compared to the more modern 992 cars that we see currently out on circuit in the NLS and joining into the Carrera Cup that lands up following the Formula One calendar as well. So they're a little bit easier to drive, they're a little bit welcoming to gentleman drivers, and are rather affordable to run for our Porsche racing lineup cars. If you don't want to go and pony up the cash to jump into the GT3 cars, this is the next best deal. And once again, you do get a car that naturally has traction control and ABS, which was utilized in the Carrera format. Dan Mutsumia now moving up through the order. This is a driver that started stone cold last and now has pulled his way up through the field, not wanting to be caught out up into 16th position, as we do see De Villiers, Farmer and Musa, the three South Africans that have done their pit stops. Farmer with damage to his car, De Villiers as well, and Myth Musa getting damage to their car, and that allowed the rest of the field. But Daniel, for the proper racing team, has now gone on a proper charge all over the back of gold champion for season 17 of the ERA Championship, Lewis Knight. His go-to car is usually a Nissan GTR, so this is a little different to what he's used to driving. Instead of having a turbocharged V6 that's able to run away from the pack, he is now sitting in this Porsche Cup car thinking, right, this is a little different. This is now a little more of a different car to try and hang on to, and who's going to be able to keep it going. Oh, Henry Platt getting a little bit of contact against Spritzer. Martin into the wall, and that is going to help David Borski. Henry Platt for the proper racing gets turned around. Lewis Knight also spun round at the hairpin. Then Dan Mutsma up into 15th position. Lewis Knight tapering off, but Sebastian Lucasen waits his opportunity. We did see Henry Platt staring at the rest of the field coming by. So a little bit of chaos kicking in. Drivers starting to feel the pressure, and we haven't even had 5 minutes of the racing at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like we've really scratched the surface just yet, and yeah, we've only really had 15 minutes, and there's already been quite a few little slips, which is to be expected if it's not your main car to be racing with. And we'll just take a look at what happened on that hairpin. If you just hit the rewind, it wasn't the hairpin so much that I was looking toward. It was hang on, if I can get my vehicles right, we can get another replay on that. Just bear with me 1 second, I had the wrong focus. So here we go, entering the hairpin between Knight and Matsushima. It looks like Knight just got away from him. It just, at the back end, just couldn't stay planted. So that's another tyre inferno demise there for Knight.
Just got on the power too early, and that spun him around with the car. Then he had to hang on for dear life, and unfortunately having a bit of a tough time. Fun fact, did you know that the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup car, the 99 1.2 that we see out on the circuit, yes, has got quite a naming scheme for these cars. It was first manufactured in 2016 and it ended in 2020. This is at the same time that the DLC towards 2020 came out on a set of Corsa Competizione, following through with the SRO. Now, a wonderful thing to think about these cars is they do put everyone on an even playing field. Who's going to be able to battle their way through? This is a 6-cylinder flat 6-cylinder, 4 liters, water cooled, and they've got a special dispensation from FIA to use glycol in the car. They're one of the very few cars that can't run straight water. as they do have to have an additive in the radiators to try and keep the engines oiled up. Now, these are the only cars, Porsches are the only ones to get a disqualification from FI. It's not glycol. Glycol is what we use in our normal cars. In racing, you're not allowed to use additives to try and help out your coolant when you put into your car. Think of your normal road car. You put in your coolant, you go drive, land up in an accident, the coolant lands on the top. It's like driving on oil. It is terrible. But with these cars, with the Porsches in particular, they have to run an additive to get themselves sorted out and to be able to carry on racing. Otherwise, if they don't, well, this engine seizes up. Being the only brand that's able to get that dispensation from FIA is no easy feat. And you are talking about cars that are on upwards of, what was the going rate sell on these Porsches? I think it was, you're looking at about 230,000 euros that you're going and backing out, you're going to be paying for. I'll try and get the actual info during the time. But that being said, every accident we see out on circuit, thankfully, we don't have to worry about any going and causing a bit of chaos, because nothing is worse than crashing into someone's oil at 175 miles per hour or 281 kilometers an hour and landing up driving onto this horrible oil that you would be picking up on circuit. Now the drivers in the sim are still having to battle it out, and you're not talking about a circuit that as it gets warmer, the tires are going to drop off quicker, and at the same time can get too hot. That will feel like you're driving on oil.
How's that? Does it clean up well? Can you, just throw about some cat litter or something? Probably not cat litter, because that's going to be a bit of an ice skate rink for the rest of the drivers, and I'm sure there's a better means of cleaning up spillages on from motor racing. Is there? How is that managed?
They actually use the cat litter on it to try and get it, but you've got to use essentially cement dust. So if you think of your normal, it's a little bit more closer to what your actual cement is, but they do have cement dust, or for some countries they use like sand, but it does need to be picked up by your oil spill kits. You'll generally see there's a special type of I'll try to get the name of it, but if you go to your fuel station, you see these spill kits that they've got lying around. It's a special type of sand or cement dust that allows it to soak up a lot of the oils and coolants that's around, and then allows you to sweep it off. It turns into a little bit of a muddy substance when it first gets it. Now, I was talking about it being glycol, and it's used in GT Cup racing. So, like what we see out on circuit, they do use glycine, which is also for European cars, which you will mostly see in these Porsches. It's a little bit of an interesting time. But there is a regulated spill kit that you got to have at the racetracks. So for your club racing, you'll see they'll use cement dust, but for any international or grade 1 races, grade 2 races, they will use specialized spill kits that don't harm the environment, and they work rather well for any type of these racing. So I'll try and get the actual technical name that they use to put it all together, but long and short of it, cement dust, bit of sand, cleans it up, doesn't completely get rid of it, so you still will be going over a slippery patch out on track. Now in sim racing, this is not a concern for us, thankfully, as nothing's worse than losing visibility and a bit of grip out on the top. But let's get back to the race at hand, because at the moment Rafa holds a dominating lead over Christoph Peterson. 5.5 seconds to second place. Issam Domingo up into third, 4 seconds off the back of that. Vega Kobler sits in fourth, 1.7 seconds, while Andres Herodio and David Roth chase down for second and third in the Pro-Am division. Vega Kobler sits in third. Limburgs is keeping the pressure on to David Roth and seeing where he could go. The Fear the Bones driver now chasing down David Roth further up the road. 0.3 of a second, you can see how much he makes under braking. And through Spoon. Oh, that is going to be a driver track limit warning, and braked that a little bit too hard to get caught out. The question is, how many warnings is he sitting on? We saw the effects of it in round one, and well, he kept his foot firmly pinned in it. Daniel de Villiers into the pits once again, getting a pit stop done. That's going to complete his 2 pit stops required in this race. The question is, was it needed to just fill up and go, or is he now just trying to get a little bit of repair work done to the car after skating against the fringes of the circuit? And the PWSR driver idling and waiting for his opportunity. Unfortunately, 2 laps down, Jason Farmer and Mahatma will be getting around him, but not quite how you want to have the start of the season with 0 drop routes.
Yeah, this is not a race for de Villiers today. This is a second round for Farmer, who's it's just, I guess this might be a third time lucky scenario where he comes round into round 3 and has a let's say a clearer run at let's hope it's one of his more favoured circuits, because he enjoys the Porsche and he hates Suzuka. Who knows? Who knows?
So that being said, Daniel de Villiers pit stop complete. He's back out on circuit. The only car that has completed all these pit stops. A little far out. I wouldn't utilize them as the bar to keep an eye on, because Jason Farmer sits in 21st position and is way up the road. Got one more stop to go. But for Rafa, Christoph and Domingo, sitting in the top 3, are you going to go the extra mile? Are you going to get down to 14 minutes left in this race, get your pit stops done, try and double up on your pit stops, or are you going to break it down? 50 minutes, get the first pit stop done, then head into the final 20 minutes and get your pit stop done. So just try and open up that little bit of a distance as you getting into the rhythm of a car, getting into the flow of what you need to do to keep these cars on the winning wicket. This is always the tough part for every single one of our drivers, to go that extra mile to see what they can do here at Suzuka for round 2 of the champion. And it is absolutely crucial to move up through the order. If you think about this, it is 30 points if you go and get first. It's 2 points if you get the fastest race lap. You get a point for the fastest race lap, and the best qualifying lap gets you an extra point. So you can walk away with qualifying and your race lap 2 points up on your finishing order. And the only positions that get to score is first to 15 in each of the classes. So for Rafa at the moment, he is sitting on 30 points. Peterson sits with 27 points at this stage of the game. Vega Kobler on 24 points if he remains third in class. Limburgs will hold 21 points, with David Walshke looking at 18 points. Now you can see how this is starting to turn into a bit a dangerous situation if you're not up towards the top, because it's only getting worse. And when I talk about only getting worse, you take a look towards 8th in Pro. They'll get 11 points. 9th will get 9 points. 10th, 7th points. 11th will get 5. 12th will get 4. 13th, 3. 14th, 2. And 15th in class will only get a single point. If you're below that, well, you're scoring nothing for your class. and we have got quite a field out there. If you talk about it, we got 23 cars on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of our Pro-Ams, which means the lowest scoring of our Pro-Ams, Real Jar, at current, will only get 4 points for his championship. For our pros, we're sitting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, with Daniel de Villiers scoring the least amount in his run. With the 11th position, he'll only get 5 points.
Sure, they don't want to be reminded of this if they're listening to it on live on the broadcast, but we will all be coming back fighting for round 3 for the and with that, I believe, just taking a look at the track map, we don't have any risk of back markers or blue flags happening at present. The Sousa is sitting in that comfortable first place, 7 seconds clear of Peterson now climbing to 6.2 seconds, but that theme is continuing throughout this race. We are rounding up to half an hour on circuit. Weather, just taking the spot for the weatherman. Still looking like fantastic weather, holding firm on 31 degrees track temperature. I wonder what their tyres are feeling like now. Would we potentially be seeing some more pit stops happening by some of the front runners? Let me know your thoughts in the chat.
I don't think we're going to see the pit stops as yet. It's still early days on these tyres, unless you have gone and bricked it by lockups or slides. At this stage of the game, it's no point going and pulling yourself out of the race. You want to stay towards the sharp end of the field as much as possible. Remember, most of the cars are sitting in free air at the moment. The only ones that are really in a fight is Sebastian Luxton and Daniel Mutsma, along with David Roth and Ernest Limburgs, that keep each other rather busy. Begor Krobler and Issam Domingo, in 2 different classes, can open up that little bit of gap to keep moving forward. Now, I do want to also point out a fun little fact. We talk about the classes, Pro, Pro-Am, and seeing who is standing at the top, but we cannot forget that these are drivers fighting out not just only for their class, but an overall drivers championship. And that sounds a bit weird. Why is there an overall drivers championship? Well, we're here to see who is the ERA master. And at the moment, Christoph Peterson holds the top of the charts on 32 points, but Lucas Collin, who's a Pro-Am driver, sits on 30 points. David Roth on 28, Begor Krobler on 27 points overall. Because if they work on the positioning of each of the different cars, well, it does make things a little bit different when you start chucking that into the fray as well. Real Jar, currently in 20th position, is into the pit lane, and he's keeping an eye on Farmer, Musa, and de Villiers a little bit further back. David Roth has now got Ernest Limburgs on him, and the punt things will be looking to keep alive ahead of the Fear of the Bones driver of Limburgs, who puts that pressure on, takes a dive for the inside. For Roth, this is not a class position that he has to worry about, and the two drivers do work with one another in the same team come ERA Sunday. So I do think that we are seeing a little bit of a team move to try and pull their way through. For David Roth, he's now got the like of Porsche behind him, and will be going, right, another car I don't have to worry about, but Limburgs, you got to worry about the 701 chasing us down.
That gap he's already opened up. It's almost like Limburgs is just waiting for his moment. And Roth must have really put up some solid defence, making it very tricky for Limburgs to find that opening. But we have seen Roth teasing in previous laps with Limburgs Limburgs is no stranger to those classic tactics of closing windows, and I'm sure he knows some tricks up his sleeve. Let's take a look at the rest of the grid. We have Serodio, who is sitting comfortably second in class but fifth overall, tailing Grobler in it's 4 seconds ahead currently. I don't remember seeing Serodio so far up the standings. Is this the case in the last race? I need to find my driver's stats. So that's it's a nice surprise to see Serodio very far up the standings here. And looking at Sean Shoots, enjoying a very peaceful race, mid-pack. It's 15th. It's overall, that is, but for class, we do have a solid cluster of Pro-Ams in between that is swaying those numbers. I'm doing my numbers on the fly. It looks like 6th in class.
And with Sean Skitter trying to make up the ground, former teammate to Christoph Peterson. Christoph Peterson and likes of Ernest Limburgs used to be part under the just stable. They've now parted ways. The Fear the Bones drivers going and keeping the Fear the Bones named sharp end of the field will be looking to move forward. Now, you did bring up about Andre Serodio and Issa, two drivers that have been doing a little bit more running in odd vehicles. Out in LMU, they race in a variety. For Serodio, it has been practice with the LMP2 cars. Lots of aero, no ABS, no traction control to try and save you. You got to try and keep it all together. But an interesting call coming just out of our top 10. Sebastian Lucasen diving into the pits with 56 minutes remaining of the race, and is taking a look to Dave Walshke, Jason Farmer, Earl Jar a little bit further down the order. Is this just more to come for the rest of our field? Is this more to see what's happening out there? Who's going to be able to run the gauntlet? Who's going to go the extra mile? As Henry Platt onto the back of Sean Skitter, the Moscow Motorsport driver that has recently gone back into racing into the BMWs. Well, not recently. This is his first time out in the BMWs, ditching the big Bentley. Now puts the pressure on Sean Skitter up ahead. The two know each other rather well. Henry Platt is incredibly quick, but when it's coming down to consistency in his car, he ate the wall first before going and running into a bit of a problem. Sean Skitter, however, was part of our earlier incident in lap 2 in Spoon, that he's picked up that damage on the nose, and he's starting to feel it.
Yeah, and as we were talking about how much aero really matters on these cars, I'm sure the combination of Skitzer and his front bumper looking like it's about to fall off at any minute versus Henry Platt's very, very immaculate bodywork, it's really going to take an effect as he's making his charge. Coming up towards 130R. Are we going to see an overtake maneuver? Nearly. Skitzer is very well and truly put off by Platt's aggressive moves, and he nearly gets it. He doesn't. It's so hard to say what's happening right now, except Skitzer's really pushing the limit. And I think Platt has got this. He does. He's managed to secure it. He's managed to bag himself 14th. Just in the nick of time down the start-finish straight. Now, I do expect Skitzer is going to go into pits and take that crucial time away to invest in a new front bumper, because we can't have any more of those incidences happening on track. We are under 1 hour to go now. And like we say, there's still a hell of a race to go ahead of us.
Plenty more to go. And this is where the factor of 2 pit stops come into play. Who is going to double stack their pits? Are they going to open it up? 52 minutes to go in this race. Are you going to split it 30-20? Are you going to try and figure out that may be the option? 30 minutes in, get into the bits, and when you get to 20 minutes, get into the box as well. We've seen drivers push it right down to 3 minutes left in the race, get their pit stop done and dusted. Now, if you do think about this, Alan, our cars out on circuit, averaging around about 204s within the top 10, now having to 204s, 205s, now having to think, what do they need to do to stand at the sharp end of the field? How far are they willing to go to get that little bit more of a run? Are you going to run with a lighter tank longer in hopes that you get the fastest lap time of the race? That is a single point that you can get being the fastest in the race. For those that qualify first in their classes, they've already scored an extra point. They 1 point up on their competition. Now, who's going to be able to carry it through to the end? Who is going to run that little bit longer, see how it works out? Ulrich de Jager going and having a good bit of fun out there, was tailing on the back of Bego Krobler, who holds on to 4th position. The Griffin Sim Racing driver was part of an earlier bit of problem, but tried everything he can to stick onto the back of Johan Bego Krobler. Fun fact about Johan Bego Krobler, he's actually a sim racing steward for one of the South Africans out here, and he has been really keeping his money on. He's been trying to move forward. He coached Jared Bakum, who's his teammate in Team Wolf, and now as the ERA master for Team Wolf, will have to try and show off his skill that little bit further. He's trying to close up to Issam Domingo every step of the way, but Issam Domingo keeps that 1.8 second gap through majority of the corners compared to Johan Bego. That little bit of a setup change is definitely helping Domingo.
Every second counts. And especially when it comes to endurance racing, you really need to keep that pace. And touching back on the fuel tank strategy, these drivers are going to get more confident with the cars as time goes on. They're going to have their opponents ahead of them in real time to be able to say, not safely say, whether a certain strategy is going to work for them in whichever scenario chucks at them in the next 50 minutes. I would on, as a cautious driver, I would on keeping a heavier tank. If you were not so comfortable with the dynamics and mechanics of said vehicle, that has actually afforded me a lot of get out of jail free cards when it comes to the Porsche's overall design. I am able to keep the car on circuit, but as soon as I flirt with 20 litres left in the tank, that's game over for me. So it's anyone's guess what kind of vapours are left in the tanks at the end of a stint. Let's just hope it's not a repeat of Limburg's from last week. Steve, have you ever been in a situation where, let's say, if we're talking about the virtual world, have you ever had any races where you are just on fumes left in your race, and how are you feeling about that when you were in that situation?
Absolutely scared to all heck of note, because the problem comes down, you think you got more than enough time out of the circuit. You think, hang on, I'm okay, you can keep going. That fuel light comes on. These cars have a big red bar that comes over the dash that says low fuel pressure warning that you have to push accept to get it out of the way. That will then allow you to see back of what your current lap time is, what Delta's going through, because these actually have 3 menus: practice, race, and quali. And the moment that band comes up on your dash, you get a little bit of a problem. You go, okay, I need to get rid of this. But it will sit in the back of your mind that, hang on, there's a bit of a problem. You'll also have a disco of note as lights flashing onto the dash that can land up distracting as well. But you start guessing. You start going, okay, what do I need to do to stay at the top? How far can I push these cars really? Am I going to be able to run that extra lap? Am I going to be able to go that little bit longer into the race? Or am I going to now back? Am I going to stress about getting to the line? And soon as you start picking up an odd splitter, you start becoming a little bit more aware of the car, a little less aware of the circuit and your relative. You start lifting a little bit more, and that allows the rest of the field to start making up ground on you. You get into your own head very, very quickly when you start flirting with those very, very fine limits that can make or break your race. Remember, if you stop out on circuit, out of fuel, you're towing back, and that tow back time around this circuit is nearly 5 minutes, 5 to 6 minutes just to tow back, and then you get your fuel stop done. But that means that you don't even get your pit stop counted as part of your mandatory pit stops, which means you're visiting it for the 3rd time during the race, and not kind of the way that you want to go, because overall time that would be lost was nearly 10 minutes of waiting to go out after your fuel stop and then trying to cycle yourself back into the race. Once you make your way around with a 2-minute 5 or a 2-minute 6 during the course of it, you pull back into the pit lane, you're putting 1 litre of fuel back into the car. That's if you've set up your pit stop correctly, and these do have different pit strategy menus that come into play. Beggar Cobbler and Rodio both pulling into pits, they're getting their first stops done, and will be the markers for Rafa, Peterson, Domingo, Limburgs, Roth, Wall, Spitzer, Diaga, Young, and Colin will need to keep a very close eye on. These are the first 2 drivers in the top 10 to do their pit stop without a problem.
It looks like we have some movement in the pit lane potentially. And looks like Grobler's actually making his way out of pits, and Serodio's still in there, just leaving now. So that's some it's a very quick stop. I dare say that was a tyre change, maybe. It's hard to say, but coming out of the pit, Serodio is faced straight away with immediate threat from Wheeler, and they're going side by side through these S's. What beautiful work from these two, keeping their distance perfect without any contact. I'm sure Serodio was feeling a hell of a lot of pressure from that. But needless to say, he has actually fallen. So well, he's just looking at the positions. Actually, it's my race control only just updated to include Lewis Knight as the driver that passed Serodio just then.
Lewis Knight's a lap down on a little bit earlier from the front runners, but take a look at the call here. Sosa, Domingo, Limburgs going and feeling the threat and seeing where exactly Beggar Cobbler came out. 14th position. There's the react that we expect. So with Bago and the likes of Serodio to get themselves sorted out, Serodio doing the tyre stop, going and feeling the car. Listen, not feeling 100% to where I want it to be. Now has to try and generate a bit of heat. Tyres here. Lewis Knight minds out the way last go. But the reaction from the pit wall is, hang on guys, get that pit stop done. let's move forward. Rafa, first out, is now into second place and does hold the fastest lap at this stage of the game, giving him a +1 in his run. Now trying to keep it all together. Lewis Knight opting that he's going to also have a very close run. Now, I'm going to be trying to work out on points and give a little bit of a live overview of who sits where during the course of it, so we can get a provisional, and I do specify provisional point standing. To you at home, just joining us here for the ERA Masters League, a massive welcome to you all out in the virtual grandstands. 42 minutes remain of this race and plenty more action to go. It is a 7-round championship, testing drivers over the course of random weather, random amount of cars being the M2 and the Porsche Cup car. Lucas Collard, though, can't afford the penalty that he's just received, and down in 18th place, he's going to be visiting pit lane for the 3rd time because he has to serve his stop-go 30. Then he will have to come back in for his pit stop. He will have to serve that stop-go. He has a choice in the menu to go and serve penalty or do pit stop. Either way, he has to do that stop-go 30-second, and that will completely burn his chances of being in the top 5 to go and stay for the run. And Lucas Collab is the leader of our Pro-Ams in the championship, and that will sway things in favor for David Roth, Sebastian Luxon, who are tailing him in points.
Just watching Souza having a little bit of fun with Matsushima, who's a different category entirely. Looks like, as we're watching the screens now, yes, Souza makes the pass and is making his way up the grid standings now. That was Platt that he overtook. The next stop is Matsushima, who is under 9 seconds away. So it's all a matter of time. How many laps is it going to take to catch up to Matsushima, who's currently racing 3rd for category?
Matsushima more than happy to keep up the going. And remember, that is a driver that started stone cold last. That is a driver that was at the back of the field, didn't have the best qualifying, and now running 3rd in class, 6th overall. He's in the top 10, and that's also going to score in points because we do have both the class championship and the overall championship, and he's the only one in his team championship as well for racing. So how's that for a bit of a fun fact?
It's a very fun fact indeed. I do like looking at the grid standings that we have today, the current outcome, and what's the points are going to mean. Now, who do you think is going to be the one to watch in today's race based on the pace and racecraft that you've seen from these Cup cars? Would you say we are going to see a surprise jump up the leaderboard after today's race?
Well, at the moment, I think Rafa has got a lot underneath his belt. Remember, he's gotten the fastest lap, and it was, if my memory serves me correct, was the fastest in qualifying, and that's going to bump him up a good few points. He's also done his pit stop, so depending on what Roth do for their charge up through the order, it's going to be a great one. But I do foresee a Pro-Am in the top 3 overall to go and fight out, and that is going to be the big moment for every single one of our drivers, is who is going to be standing at the sharp end of the field come the end of the race. Who's going to be the mainstay? Who will be the top of the top? But the hardest charger at the moment has to go to the likes of Martin Spritzer. Spitzer holds third place at the moment, up 9 places from where he started. Sean Skitter just managing to move up ahead of Rinus Limburgs. He sits in 9th. He's up 10 places from where he started. And Skitter yet to do his pit stop, much like Spitzer. Like Skitter and Spitzer, they both need to do those pit stops, getting themselves sorted. Henry Platt up 4 places from where he started. Still needs to do his first pit stop. So once we start seeing this all change out, it's going to be a good one. But I have noticed one thing: we've lost a driver. We're down to 22 cars left out on circuit, and instead of our 23, I'm trying to spot, was it our stop go 32nd that is now completely out of the running?
That's a really good question. I'm looking at the... I do hope it's not an unintentional disconnect, but it's never a good feeling. Someone's just suddenly lost connection. Paying attention to Bago Grobler is doing some... He's really keeping close to Domingo, and I wonder if this is a strategy that Grobler's going to hold on to, because Domingo has some serious pace. He is the front runner for the Pro-Am class, so this could be a very lovely blessing in disguise for Grobler if he sticks behind Domingo and utilises that slipstream to really save not only on fuel but also on tyre wear. So can he... Is this an opportunity potentially for our Team Morph driver to monetize on this and make a few places up on the likes of Platt and Sousa, currently in 3rd and 4th?
I think it's an opportunity to really launch his way up through the field if he plays his cards right. Now, I have taken a look at Rafa. He was the fastest lap currently and got first in quali. That means he's 2 points up before he's even kicked it off, lying 3rd at the moment, and is really on that extra charge. This is an opportunity for Rafa to score big in this weekend. I wonder, and once again, I wonder quite a bit here. Can Rafa launch his way up from 4th to 1st place if he gets ahead of Peterson and Spitzer? Because remember, 30 points if you come in first. He would be scoring 52 right off the bat, unless Peterson, Spitzer, Platt, Grobler, Skitter, Limburgs, Broski, Farmer, or Mahath Musa can pull the pin and get ahead of him.
Well, if Peterson were to come 2nd and Sousa were to move the way up, I don't think it's quite enough to knock Peterson off that top spot in the current runnings. Doing a bit of quick maths. Not quite. Yeah, we're just a couple of points short, so I can't imagine that a win today and Peterson would have to probably get, again doing some quick maths, would have to end up in 3rd place in today's race. But that's not counting Grobler, who's putting on a fantastic show of force at the moment. If he ends up in 3rd, I think that could be a good place for Grobler to sit in 1st in the point standings after today's race.
Very good point. And I do want to also chuck in that so far, fastest lap time of the race, 2:02.3, which is faster than the current standing Porsche Carrera Cup record, which is a 2:02.9 around the circuit here at Suzuka. Sim races running 0.6 quicker than the current lap record on Suzuka with the newer generation, the 992 cars out here at Suzuka. A big problem coming in for Sean Skitter, and that is a Porky Pig making its way to the butcher. Sean Skitter going to be towing it back to pits and dropping out of the top 10.
We never like to see that. It didn't look like a bad accident at all. It looked like potentially was that a fuel. I suppose we could find out after the race what happened, but there was a bit of nose damage. Didn't look like there was any major collisions that happened. Just looking at the race control incident log, it looked fairly clean of Skitter's vehicle number. This little cluster of vehicles is definitely the one to keep an eye on at the moment. The rest of the field is very nicely spaced out. So keeping the pace with Lucasen and Young and Platt. Make at this point, it's all a waiting game for these drivers. They've all had their pit stop, but so I can imagine very soon, in the next, between now and the end of the race, they're going to need to take those pit stops. We've had a couple of drivers now by the name of Roth and Musa. As we know, early in the race, Musa was having some problems keeping the back warm. 2 laps behind the race lead, note behind 20th position. Just looking at the race numbers, we've seen 2 drop now. It's not a good outcome.
Skitter going and retiring the car due to too much damage. The Logistical Nightmare Racing team saying that's it, unfortunately for the Porsche. Not able to see it through to the end. A big blow coming in for him.
This is just it's so sad to see drivers just hang up the cape and call it a day. But sometimes it's just the best decision to avoid any, like, I don't, what goes through these drivers' heads in terms of composure if you are running into problem after problem. Sometimes it's not something you can afford to do with no drop rounds in this this championship. It's very there's a lot of reputation on the line.
So at the moment, the 2 drivers that have dropped out, Daniel de Villiers and Sean Skitter, out of the Pro Division, will be battling to score points. They're already down in the championship with Daniel de Villiers sitting on 11 points. 9 points. That's going to be even more of hard work needed to move forward. And, well, drivers doing everything they can. We're seeing the pit stops starting to fall into play here, and it's working in favor of Spritzer as we keep a look at Henry Platt dives into pit lane. This is a react situation, trying to move up through the order, trying to see where he can go. Rafa, top of the chart, has got Christoph Peterson chasing him down to try and close up that little bit of a distance. Bego Frobler holds on to 3rd in the Pro Division. He's currently looking to score 24 points to move up through the battle. Ernest Limburg's been on a proper climb back up into the top 6, hoping to get into the top 5. Remember, he was caught out in the earlier incident and is trying to slowly but surely get back towards the likes of Bego Frobler, see if he can take advantage. But we're seeing more and more pit stops coming in. David Roth, Henry Platt behind Musa. The 3 drivers that have completed their mandatory pit stops will now focus for the next 29 minutes of this race to see through to the end.
Now, is that 2 pit stops and that's it? Oh, we just had an incident just ahead. Diaga has completely sent it off to the right. And as we all know from the track direction, that is not the way to go. Car number 75. Let's just have a quick replay of that. Well, that wasn't it. It seems like there was a bit of contact at turn 1. Do apologise, that was one of the latest incidences, but maybe that's what affected his approach into that corner. Top speed coming down to very low speeds. Perhaps his aeros really affected, or even his chassis.
Each starting to run their own, each trying to figure out where they can go. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, is who's got the stamina. Remember, these cars are very, very physical compared to the GT3s. They're highly reactive to throttle and brake. They are a very wild car to hang on to at the best of times. Now you got worn out tires. A lot of these drivers opting to go that little bit longer. They're doing a short fuel, stay out on the circuit as long as you can, but can land up in a world of hurt in the process. I mean, these are factors that will throw the entire championship into disarray if they can't get it all together.
Yes, indeed. That is even little unexpected moments like that. I can recall maybe the front end of my car being one of the bench warmers, so to speak, in this format of racing with the Cup cars. But having your back end disrupted in that way, I haven't seen that before, where the car just doesn't stop, or in what the moments that we just saw, like tear the car off to the right. Maybe the car touched the grass. Sometimes that can absolutely shoot you off in the wrong direction.
And at the same time, if you lock up the anchors, you become a passenger in these cars in a heartbeat. And that can also throw it in. A little bit of a lockup, a little bit of touch on the grass and onto the curb, lack of grip. You're a passenger of your own car. You've now got to try and see it through to skate across to see where you're going to get at the end of it. I mean, these are fundamental factors that battle their way through, and each of the drivers pushing the limit of what they can do. I mean, these are drivers that are running the knife's edge on trying to move forward. This is a make or break for them to see who's going to stand at the top. But take a look at our pros, all waiting it out. So far, top 12 yet to do their final pit stops. Jason Farmer, Arul Knight, and Wheelie still needing to get their pit stops done and dusted. Sebastian Luxon into the pit lane. But David Roth in 13 is a viable option at the moment to keep an eye on how the pit stops are going to work out for the Pro-Ams as he continues to be in open air and is driving for the next 25 minutes without a concern about bailing into the pits. No fuel concern and no tire concern. He is just hot lapping at this stage of the game, and it's exactly what you want to do. Be in your own rhythm, not chasing. Think of it as this factor. Have you ever gone running with someone, you jogging next to the side of the road with them, and you start timing your steps with theirs? Unfortunately, they're a little bit taller, maybe a little bit quicker, so you start speeding up, and you get an odd rhythm starting to build up. You start to use a little bit more stamina trying to keep up with your running buddy. Same in a race car. You're trying to keep up with your running buddy. And sometimes that pushes you a little bit out of the comfort zone versus when you're out there hot lapping by yourself, because now you're racing yourself. That also becomes a little bit of an you have to keep telling yourself, I'm up on this delta, I'm down on the delta. Where do I need to be to try and keep it within the green? You can sometimes push a little too hard and there's no reference marker for you to deal with. But at the same time, if you're going and running close proximity to cars, well, you can outstep yourself. You can outbrake yourself. You can take that corner a little too fast, trying to watch into your mirror on the left-hand side or even in the center, and land off barreling into the dirt. A little lockup that more than 40% brake in these cars can land up with you skating off into the distance and damaging the car, as we've seen a good couple of drivers do. Unfortunately, 2 retirements thus far, one being Daniel de Villiers and the other being Sean Skitter.
Just done a quick bit of maths. David Roth, he definitely has appetite for taking on Young in 10th. That is a certainty. So Young is probably a little bit twitchy, just past the 23-minute mark. One more pit stop. Is this going to be a tactical... Well, the tyre changes are a requirement, but how much fuel does he have on board? This is all a game of math on the fly while holding pace. If any of our drivers are fortunate enough to have a pseudo race engineer on hand, they can do the math with them, but some of these drivers are doing it all in their heads. They are a one-man band doing the race, doing the math, reading the track, and strategizing all in one go. Is Young cooking in that cockpit, or is he cooking right now? We would love to have some of these drivers in the post-race debrief, just to see how that race went with such a unique car setup that we have in the 991 Cup cars.
And every opportunity to move forward still stands for our drivers. Every opportunity to stand at the top. Question is, who can carry the momentum that little bit further? Who can push himself? For Jason Farmer and Lewis, in a little bit of a compromising situation. Stop. David Roth ahead has done the pit stop, and Henry Platt behind has done their pit stop. For both classes, they're in a bit of a rough standing to try and keep ahead of that pack as it starts to open up here with 21 minutes remaining. Who is going to stand at the top of it? Who's going to have enough in the points? And I'm taking a look. If it currently stands between Rafa and Peterson will sit on 59 points. Rafa's 50. Carrying into round 3, Vega Krobler, if he stays where he is, he's going to get 50. He's going to be on 51 points. So our top 3, not separated by much in our pro division, and still a lot of room to be made, still a lot of movement to be done, and who's going to come out on top.
To be honest, it's going to be interesting for everyone from 1st to 12th, still yet to take the last pit stop.
But when do you take it? 20 minutes now. You've done your first pit stop. You've worked out your fueling. Hopefully it's right. And have you got enough to see it through to the end? Have you got enough time to get the pit stop sorted? How's your tires looking? Have you got a bit of damage to your car? Do you really need to consider that now I'm running out of pace, I'm running out of choices? When are you going to get that pit stop done? Are you far enough up the grid to make it work out in your favor? Or are you now sitting with a huge problem and not able to keep the momentum? These are fundamental factors that come into play, and drivers needing to seriously think of what they need to do to stay at the top.
Doing a quick recap on some of the race stats at the moment. Matsushita is still leading the way as the fiercest grid predator, making 11 places from start. However, he still has to have his pit stop, and between that and the rest of the grid, he could make a quick dash in and out and manage to retain 14th or 15th depending how the rest of the race goes. Musa is keeping the back form. He has sadly lost 10 places. As we saw at the start of the race, he had a bad time. And we're rooting for you, buddy. We are rooting for you.
Now, another factor to consider, Andre Serodio is not an AM driver. So on the listing here, it has got him as an AM, but I've confirmed with race officials, he is not an AM driver. He is a pro driver, which means that Chris Wall currently holds on to second place. Bego Hrobler is fighting against Serodio in the same class as they hold on for third place. So a little bit of a technicality coming in play there, but a big play forward. Bego Hrobler, you got to remember, is fighting for third place. He's trying to keep himself going with 51 points. Serodio can put the ding in that one. Serodio will only be scoring points here today, and that is gonna change the entire landscape of what he needs to do to move forward. But at the same time, it does take a good couple of drivers out of their usual running, and recalculating onto the points, well, it's not looking good for anyone running 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, as Serodio is taking crucial points away in the 7-round champion. For those that were in round 1, Serodio missed out, he's got 0 points, and now will be scoring 21 points if he remains where he is.
We're just following Wheeler and Knight at the moment, who are now really stacking the pressure up. We've just gone past 17 minutes to go mark. Our drivers are starting to up the ante. We are all very familiar with the way the cars are handling. We haven't caught it all, but I'm sure a lot of our drivers have experienced the yays and nays of what a Porsche Cup car allows and disallows. As we get closer to the end of today's race, like we said before, the secret sausage in Serodio, sitting in 5th place at the moment, is actually a pro driver, as Steve has mentioned. Diaga has taken it a little bit too far and gotten too deep into the corner of Spoon. On he goes again, no places lost, but crucial time has been gained by Roth, who is sitting just behind in 13th. This is going to hurt Diaga's tyres, and Roth is seeing the dollar signs, and there goes Diaga into the pits. That is his final pit stop that he's taking now. Very, very smart move there, Diaga. Now in the pits. Farmer is about to sail past, who also needs to take his final pit stop here. And just behind is Lucasen, who has completed all of his pit stops. But this is looking interesting because you've got just behind Sousa is flying on through with no threat in sight. Peterson is in 2nd place, and behind that Domingo, who is just entering or coming. These cars shift, don't they? By the time I started talking about them, Domingo is already at the end of the start-finish straight. Lindbergh's
is,
well, this is an interesting one right now. He is tucked really close behind Serodio. He teases Serodio with a move, and Serodio doesn't seem too phased right now. We all know that these drivers know the limits, and all the other drivers trust each other. What beautiful harmony it has been just watching these drivers. There has been very little in way of incidences as well in today's race. So massive kudos to you drivers picking up the wheel of very, how do we say, unscrupulous cars. I don't even know if that's the right way of describing it. Ruthless, probably.
I do want to point out, Limburg's, if he clears past the rodeo, that's 21 points that he's going to get, which is crucial because at the moment he's only going to score 18 points. 25, he will finish with 25 points. Dave Borski will sit with 30. So it's crucial that he gets his pass done if he wants to get any closer to David Borski, who currently sits a little bit further up the road from him. For Limburgs, it's now or never. Serodio is the joker card here that can completely flip the script in the pro standings. The question is, can he handle the pressure? Can Limburgs keep going? Remember, Limburgs pushed harder and harder in round one, and unfortunately, it was his own undoing that threw him down, that he was only able to score 7 points in round one due to fuel usage and just not being able to get it down to the wire where he wanted it to be. Oh, smashing Lucasen into the wall through the S's. Not quite what you want to do, but he keeps his foot firmly planted to the floor. Mental health check. Well, that's a tire wall check, and now trying to figure out what is going on with the car. Remember, he's done his pit stop now. There's no takey backsies at this stage of the game. It is all about momentum. Who is gonna stay at the top? And as the pit stops start to finish, we're gonna try and work out where exactly they're gonna stand in the points. How far are they going to have to push to stay at the sharp end of the field?
This is it's going to be an interesting game of cat and mouse between Serodio and Limburgs. I wonder who is bluffing who in this scenario. As we just spoke about, as Steve mentioned, Limburgs is still most likely haunted by last week's undoing of his spectacular charge. I'm sure he has overcalculated and added a few more drops into his tank. Looks like Serodio's gone slightly wide, and that's it. That's Limburgs. He's going shoulder to shoulder now. This is very close as they are going through 200R on the approach to Spoon, and it looks like Limburgs has got the nose in. But is Serodio going to do a switchback? It really does look very close.
He's trying around the outside. Limburg's trying to get the drive in it side by side. Ooh, a little bit of contact. Spoon. And well, who's Big Spoon? Who's Little Spoon? Well, into 130R. We're about to find out. Both unyielding. Both are going to chase it through. It's going to be Serodio running out a little bit wide. He's able to door on Limburgs, who comes firing back at him. And take a look who's joined in the party. The 242 now in for the mix. The track tool team not wanting to get caught out. That is Wheelie, who is really on the charge, and he can't afford to lose time because he's got Lewis Knight chasing his tail, looking to try and move forward, and that can also change the entire complexity of this race as Serodio going out with Limburgs, who's trying to pull it back. Serodio and Limburgs chased each other into turn one, and ultimately both landed up off circuit. Serodio worse off than Limburgs.
And there was the cat and mouse. Limburgs had that extra bit of I'd like to say a little bit of vavaboom coming through some of these corners. A little flash for the camera, whether it's for the camera or Wheeler, as we were just talking about there. The sandwich of the Pro-Ams, I'm sure Serodio is itching to get past right now. Wheeler is just waiting for the right moment, just here in the hairpin. This is not good for Wheeler. Knight has caught right up. And he is back on Wheeler's case hanging on for dear life. This is a battle for 17th, but with Farmer still yet to have a pit stop. Are we going to see these three battling it out in the next 8.5 minutes? Oh, Wheeler's really kicking out the back end there. Again, a little bit of Tokyo drift. Very, how should we say, when in Rome or when in Japan. Little tail flick there again. Thank you very much, Farmer. Going back to some of that hungry action there from Lewis Knight. Are they going to take a pit? Oh, look at that. That's Knight really pushing the limit.
Lewis Knight looked towards pit lane and saw as an opportunity. He's done his pit stops, but that tank slapper was staring him right into the pit lane because you have two options. Correct the slide. Get it with three options. Correct the slide, land up into the Onco barrier, or go through the pit lane. Lewis Knight got the earlier of the three choices, but if it was looking a bit unsteady, he would have slowed the car down, dive into pit lane, and just do a drive through to continue on. Nothing worse than hitting that Onco barrier.
And the Armco is definitely not a stranger in today's race. It's almost a bit of a Grim Reaper in car aero-mechanical health. Some cars can take an absolute beating, but these cars, they are glass cannons, that's for certain. Still no sign of Farmer looking toward. Let's see if it's going to be this lap that he makes the dive into pits. It is not. He carries on. How many more laps? He's got 3 more. He can afford 3 more laps before he does that dive. Is he going to pull off a theatrical ending?
It's going to be one of the late moves, and I do think all are considering Rafa, Peterson, Domingo, Krobler, Limburgs, Brodsky, Young, Mutsuma, and Farmer yet to do their final pit stop. All of those drivers named are going and taking the gambit here, seeing who's going to be able to go that little bit longer into the race. 40 laps, an hour and 30 minutes, 90 minutes of racing that the drivers have been at it. 2 mandatory pit stops they need to serve for round 2, and trying to maximize the points here tonight to see who will be at the top of the order, who is going to forward after tonight. Peterson holds a 6-point gap to Rafa at the moment, and hoping to go that little bit longer in this race, trying to see can he keep the momentum in the pro field, or is he going to get caught out in the long run? For our Pro-Am, David Roth will hold on by a single point. He sits on 49 points to Chris Wall on 48, tied with Isam Domingo, who got, at the moment, will be walking home with the 30 points, plus a fastest lap and a fastest quali, making it a tie heading into round 3 in points.
This is really, really starting to heat up now, and we were all expecting this. This was all a steady game of who is going to spin and who is not, who is going to maintain pace, and who is going to keep their tyre health in check. Cup cars are a totally different beast, and what a treat it has been to have it showcased by era's finest and greatest drivers. Lewis is having a go on Wheeler now. I absolutely love the onboards with these cup cars. They scream and shout. I cannot believe there's only 7,500 RPM until gear shift. These things sound like they're going into the tens of thousands.
Having a ton of fun out there. Now Lewis Knight sits in in 9th position, and he'll score 9 points if he can't get past Wheeler. This is a bit of a nightmare situation in his case because he needs to make up those points. He needs to try and close up the distance and see where they're going to land further in the field. I mean, these are some tough moments, but the drivers are going to make tough calls, especially for those that still need to pit. As we do see, Grobler's got into the pit lane. Now that leaves our top 4 to consider their options. When are they going to get into the box? How far are they willing to push these cars to the limit to stay at the top of the order? And how much life have they got left? We got 2 minutes and 56 minutes. This is literally their final time to get those pit stops sorted and moving through before the end of the race. Farmer in 11th position is in for a world of hurt if he cannot get out ahead of Henry Platt, who is running in 15th at this stage of the game.
This is far too close. We have certainly, just looking at the speed traps and the timings coming through the sectors now, I'm just waiting. There we go, there's Platts, they're into the pits. That is Farmer into the pits, and just then I believe is also Sousa, and we also have Peterson, who came into the foreground shot as we were looking at Farmer. So that's 3 of them. We still have Domingo and Limburgs. Now, are they going to join the Porky Pig Pack in the pits? It's got to be. It's got to be now or never. There it is. Straight into pits. All the top 4 in the pits at present. Meanwhile, hopping over to Grobler, who... Is this a moment that Grobler can make his way up? I think it might be. It might be a top 3 finale.
He's going to have to make it work. Sousa out of the pits, Peterson out of the pits, Domingo coming and getting ready to go out. The question is, has he got enough run? He will be waiting it. Limburg's dropping off the jacks. Bago Grobler now eyeing out, moves up into 3rd for the pros. Bago Grobler now holds 3rd with Limburg's running the gamble down into 4th place. Not quite what he wants to have, and now will be trying to claw his way through. The entire team now has gone through the pits, and it is a race down to the wire. 38 seconds to go for round 2, and it is all to play for here tonight at the ERA Masters League round 2 for 2026. Sebastian Lucasen trying to move his way back up through the order. He's got David Young ahead of him as they fight on.
Oh no, we've had a little injury on the side of Spoon here. I think Diago got caught out by the crest and maybe not enough gas. However, Lucasen and Young, this is their moment. This is happening. Keeping an eye on what Sousa is up to. He is about to complete the race here today. Coming around the final corner now. Sousa has secured 1st place
The leader has finished the race.
at Suzuka. That was almost a one and done for Sousa right from the very start. And Peterson comes in 2nd. Domingo is having a wild time there. But taking a look at Platt, who had a bit of a bad shake-up there. There's quite a few cars in the dirt. I think that just might be the cars shutting down for the race. And there's Domingo securing 1st for Pro-Am. Very well done to you drivers. Just recently come over the line. And Grobler has secured 3rd place with Limburgs in 5th overall, 4th in category. Sorodio coming over the line 6th overall. And Borszewski coming in 7th, with Roth Spitzer and Wall. But the race is not over for Young and Lucasen, because Lucasen is not settling for 12th place here today. He wants that place. This is crucial for these two drivers. And what's going to happen as they fly through 130? They both hold on for dear life. Approaching Casio Complex here. Oh no! And that's Young. He's gone straight on. And he's lost a place. He's lost a place to Lucasen. And Lucasen comes charging through, taking that place off of Young in the closing moments. What heartbreak on the last few corners. No, no, no. Matashima watching that from a distance, taking 12th. Platt, the last driver to come over the line. And what a fantastic finish this race has been. My throat is drier than the Sahara. I started this race without a drip of water. And here comes Platt over the line. What a fantastic race by some fantastic drivers. And there we have it. Skitzer wasn't able to secure himself even a single valid pit stop. What do you think?
I think we're in for an exciting time, because our top three into the provisional points: Christoph Peterson with 59 points heading into round 3. Rafa Souza will sit in second place, 53 points. Beggar Roblo will sit on 51. So our top three in the pros is incredibly close. David Roth in Pro-Am will lead with 55 points. Isan Domingo will sit with 48 points in second place. Chris Wall tied up with Sebastian Lucasen. Thanks to that overtake right at the last, Chris Wall sits on 45 points. Sebastian Lucasen sits on 45 as well, making things a little bit more uncomfortable to go and charge your way through. It's a 7-round championship, and we've gotten down to that. A tie for third in Pro-Am, and what a race indeed. What an incredible, incredible drive. But I know we've got a couple of drivers coming to have a chat to us and join us here in the commentary box. Let's go and give their thoughts on it. First one to come and have a chat to us is not the winner of our Pro-Am, but we're going to bring in third place, who's now tied for points against Sebastian Lucasen, an old rival. Well, let's have a chat to Chris Wall. Chris, welcome to the commentary box. Sleeves were on, but definitely pace was off, and now tied up in the points for third. How are you feeling after that?
I'm pretty pleased, to be honest. I didn't think I'd have the pace to compete with the front runners, even in Pro-Am, and I was happy to be in the mix. I think the race pace wasn't brilliant. Qualifying sort of put me in a good stead, and I just managed to keep my head a little bit and just follow David around. Didn't have the pace to keep up with those guys though, and didn't really need to think too much on strategy because we didn't have any rain, so it made life a little bit easier for me towards the closing stages.
Now, the Porsche Cup car is something that's a little different to what you're used to. How we know that in a recent interview out Pitcast here at ERA, you said you're not going and throwing hammer and tongs into putting in too much hard work. Well, now you have a car that is naturally hard.
It was tough, and it's hard to sort of unlearn what you learn through GT3s, and being able to boot the throttle, having to be gentle. But I enjoy the Porsche Cups. Like I rate when we had the off-season races in them. I really enjoyed them then, and they're just a very raw mechanical driving experience. So I enjoyed them, and the problem is Suzuka's just low grip anyway, which doesn't help. But it was good fun, man. I enjoyed it, and I put a little bit of practice in this week, which isn't usually like me. I'm a bit of an arrive and drive guy, but I actually practiced for this one.
What is the game plan heading into round 3 when you hear the words Indianapolis GD3, 123 minutes, max stint of 45 with a 30% probability of rain on the 5th of April. I already hear panic mode, panic stations when you talk about Indianapolis and a long race. What is your game plan for round 3?
No, well, I mean, it's a bit of a tyre killer, Indianapolis. You get a lot of load through that front left, so I think managing your tyres through the race is going to be pretty important, but I think we're all going to be in the same boat there. I'm looking forward to it. It's a good challenge. I'm enjoying this series so far, and the racing's been really good. The banter along the way has been really good. Just the coverage has been really good, so it's been a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to Indianapolis, but like I said, I'm only going to miss one race this season, so that's going to be the Spa round. I think I'm not available for that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Indianapolis and all the challenges it has to bring.
Well, it means that you have to score the points now or never. But Chris, before we let you go to enjoy the celebrations, a phenomenal race, and now lying 3rd in the championship, tied with Sebastian Luxon. Anything you'd like to say to everyone in the background here at ERA, to all our partners of ERA, to the teams and drivers that race with here tonight, and most importantly, the petrol heads out in the grandstands?
Well, as always, just appreciate everyone that shows up on a Sunday night, dedicates their own time to put these things on, all the work that goes on behind the scenes, the people that give up their Sunday nights to watch us race virtual cars round in circles. We appreciate you all, and yeah, long may this stuff continue, because it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Chris Wall going and having a great run this time. Sleeves on. Indianapolis might be sleeves off. But Adam, I know that you are going and getting yourself sorted as you managed to hook up with our current leader of the championship. They're just trying to get the microphone connected. But Adam, you have got David Roth next to you. And let's go through and find out what has to be said.
How's it going?
Hey David, how are you? And how are you after that absolutely spectacular race that you had? How are you feeling after taking home that second in class finish? How are you feeling after everything? Because that was a long race.
Yeah, that was a long race. The first half felt like it flew by, but that second, not knowing where I was going to end up with my odd strategy, but I feel pretty good. No, it was a really fun race. These Cup cars they're very different to all the GT3s. I really enjoy the switch out.
Brilliant. So when you were thinking in the race, were there any key moments for you when you thought, or maybe you thought, nice, that's really worked out for me? Looking at this shot here with Limburgs, who's just harassing you at this point in the race, like what was going through your head? Were you just, are you familiar with Limburgs and some of the tricks he might have up his sleeve? And do you sort of have counter strategies in these moments, like when they're really tense? Like coming through here through Spoon, it's caught so many people out. Were you thinking, what was going through your head at that point in time?
I know Limburgs pretty well. We actually joined ERA at the exact same time, so we started racing together. He's faster than me. There's no getting around it. He's in a different class. He's pro, I'm am.
Yeah.
But it is fun. I mean, you're kind of in a no man's land. Like some rodeo ahead of me had about 7-8 seconds, and then Chris Wall was slightly down on pace, and I was like, you know what? Let's fight. Let's just have a little bit of fun, because you don't get to do that very often. And that was probably the only oh-no moment, was I noticed how much time I had lost because we were fighting for like 3 or 4 laps. And at the end of the race, after all the pit strategies had kind of worked themselves out, I noticed that Porsche was about 14 seconds ahead of me, and I know I had easily lost at least 10 to the fight with Limburgs, not to mention cooked my tires trying to extend braking zones and going too wide in a 130R. I forgot what lap it was, but that was definitely spicy. Now, he's a respectful driver. I know he's quick. I know he can make these overtakes, but I just wanted to have a little bit of fun.
That's great. I love that. And also recognizing how much time you've potentially lost from battling. And it sounds like you enjoyed that moment and time well spent and expired. With what you said about the tyres, now for us in the commentary booth, we're just merely speculating on the ranges of temperatures, and Steve is very well versed on those temperatures. What were you seeing in terms of like when you did have those spicy moments? Did you have any undesirable times of tire temperature, and how did you manage that?
Yeah, I ran my ducts a little bit more closed on the front than I probably should have. There was a chance of rain, and I wanted to be able to generate some heat in the wet tires. And having practiced in wet sessions and the dry sessions, I kept my front ducts at 1 instead of 2 that everybody else is running. So after fighting with Limburgs, I noticed that my front tires were getting close to 100 degrees Celsius, which led to some pretty interesting braking situations later in the stint. It was worth it. I think it was worth it. I came to ERA to race people, and I got to race with a good friend, and really battle it out. So even though I was watching those temps climb lap after lap, it was worth it for sure.
A proud moment with many tears running down your cheeks very early on in the race.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Any just final question now? What's your strategy for next week at Indianapolis? We're gonna have 2 hours ahead of us. Is this one of your secret weapons, or is it? What's your thoughts without giving too much away?
I'm pretty competent in Indianapolis. It is one of my favorite tracks to drive. I've never driven it. It's a GT3 car next week, right?
Yeah, it's back to GT3 next week.
I've never driven it in the NSX, but I'm pretty confident in the track, and I'm going to put a few days into it. Strategy-wise, a 2-hour race, it's kind of an oddball. I've done endurance even like 4 hours by myself. I don't know. I have to really think about that. I haven't really put a ton of thought into it. It's a track and car combo I'm not familiar with, and it's a timed race that I've never done. So
amazing.
I'm just gonna give it my all.
Yeah, that's all we ask, and that's what we're gonna get. So thank you so much, David. It's been a pleasure having you again in the commentary booth. Have yourself a great evening.
This is the 2 wide and 130R, by the way. This is sketchy.
And Limbo decided maybe not. Yeah.
But thank you so much. Y'all have a good night.
Yeah, you too, David. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
And that being said, pulling up fellow South African, gotta say rather proud of this, managing to hook 3rd in the championship, 51 points carried into round 3. Johan Bego Krobler, welcome to the commentary box, and what a drive out there.
No, how's it? Thanks, Steven.
Take us through the race for you. You're not one to be behind the Porsche Cup car the whole time, and now getting to fight it out with SM Domingo a little bit further up the road. You had Andre Serodio, and you're trying to keep in for the loop. Andre Serodio, pro driver that can quite easily move you down the points, and you're trying to maintain 3rd.
Yeah, I mean it's a really fun car. I enjoyed driving it. Didn't quite unlock the pace I would have wanted. So happy with the P3 and the podium, but a bit disappointed with the pace. It wasn't quite there. But points on the board, was good points, so we'll take it. But luckily I saw prior to the race that they said Andre's actually pro, despite him showing he's in AM or Pro Am. So I think on the start I got Isham and was in P3 for a while, and then I had 2 huge moments where I nearly crashed the car, and that got him past. And then after that I sort of was quite happy to just sit behind him because I knew I'm still P3 and Pro at that point. And then Andre sort of hang on to the point where if I made another mistake he would be right on me or past, and then thankfully late in the race, him and Limburg started fighting, which afforded me the opportunity to sort of back off a little and just make sure I don't make mistakes and then end up in a wall somewhere and hang on to P3. So yeah, good.
Now, I've got to ask the question, game plan heading into round 3. You're close towards the sharp end of the field. Christoph sitting on 59 points, Raphael on 53, you're on 51. It's crucial for round 3. What's your game plan?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't given it much thought yet. Myself and Chris have got something else to settle first on Thursday, and then after that we'll jump over to Indianapolis and start focusing on that. Luckily, I think it's 2 weeks now before the next race, so it gives me a bit of time because Indianapolis is not one of my favorite tracks, and it's somewhere whenever we do it, I kind of avoid doing the laps I need to do because I don't really enjoy driving it. But this time around, with the other season ending, and there'll be no excuse. So yeah, and then obviously I'm expecting more from Limburgs. I'm expecting more from Farmer. You know, there's quite a few guys that had a bad time in round 1, and then again tonight went where you'd expect them to be. So at some point, those guys are going to come good, and it's going to make things a lot tougher. So yeah, but like I said, first things first. Myself and Chris need to settle something else on Thursday first.
Settling a championship out in South Africa. Limburg's with likes of Christoph Peterson going and being a defending champion, now having to fight it out against you, looking to bring the crown back to South Africa instead, staying in Germany. Before I let you go, anything you would like to say to the entire ER8 behind the scenes working frantically to get the points sorted out, to everyone out in the virtual grandstands cheering you on and howling with the Wolves in the back?
Yeah, just huge thanks to everybody at Era A, Christian and Chris and whoever else is involved that I'm not aware of. The guys are doing one hell of a job, and it's from the Sunday evening league we did to the Masters League, it's been a joy to be a part of, and I'll definitely be sticking around and racing here for the foreseeable future. So and then to you and everybody in the broadcasting team, just thanks so much for your time and for giving us the platform to showcase what we do here and to entertain. And everybody that watches and supports, thank you guys so much. It doesn't go unnoticed or unappreciated. We really do like it, and I mean I should probably stay up way too late on a Sunday evening rewatching the stream after I raced. You go and look at all the comments and have a laugh, and that's just a really great experience to be a part of. So thank you very much.
Absolutely wonderful. And that is Johan Bego Krobler out from South Africa, managing to look in third place in the pros and managing to stay in for the fight. Adam, it has been an incredible time here at Suzuka. Others really step up the pace, but now we look to round 3, 5th of April, 1800 BST, 120 minutes, GT3 racing around Indianapolis. Your thoughts of tonight's race and what's to come?
There's a couple of pros and cons, I think, to having that little bit of grace between racing the Porsche. That's been quite a handful for many of our drivers, as we've seen two of our grand fighters actually hang up the keys midway through the race, one of which, De Villiers, was not even able to make a single pit stop. So it'll be a nice refresh to take their selected car for round 3, I think. And there's plenty of time as well to learn Indianapolis. As we heard from Grobler, that was not his favourite, but sometimes you just have to bite the bit and just go for it. Give it your best. And there's an extra half an hour tacked on the end, or half an hour and 3 minutes, let's say, compared to today's race. So there's extra thought and consideration in terms of what's the race strategy. And finally, I think, after the race points are finalised and printed, that's really going to give a lot of our drivers, especially with the rich data that is available at ERA, to be able to compare lap times and see what kind of pace our competitors have. And that's going to be a very interesting battle at Indianapolis, because those times are really going to demonstrate who's got the leading edge. In our case, at Indianapolis, I am very much looking forward to it, and I hope you are too, Steve, because these races are phenomenal.
Going to be an incredible one. But folks, it has been incredible being on air for you here for the ERA Masters as we get ready to go. Much like everyone says, we're goldfish. We love going around in circles, and we do it all the time. What? A little different. And for the ERA Masters, finding out who is the best in 26, it is game, set, on as the fight for the podium in Pro and Pro-Am continues. We look forward to the 5th of April. Make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the bell notification, and keep a lookout on our Discord. All the information is in the description. And a massive thank you to our cameraman and your commentator, Adam Ty, who put in a tremendous amount of work tonight. And from myself, Stephen Koenig, we'd love to see you joining us again coming in the next couple of Sundays. But folks, like always, to everyone around the world, out there, up there, around the world, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everybody!
And thank you very much. See you in a couple of weeks' time.